Hello, Tomáš is here bringing another programming drill, and today we have input sanitation. Input sanitation, or input validation if you want, is one of the most undervalued topic, especially between unexperienced developers. In this video, I have prepared 5 sections. We will use all of them. And first, I will try to tell the importance of input sanitation. Then we will have some examples of Scanf function, so we will understand more in deep how Scanf works. We will have exploitable demo, then we will have some Getline function, and finally we will have practical tasks. I may use Getline Demo between second and third task, because in third task we will actually need to use Getline. Okay, so I hope this video will not take long, so let's start right away. So why input sanitation does matter so much? In a lot of programming competitions, also in universities, as some homeworks and some examples, even on PA1 exam, we are just happy with correctness. What correctness means. So program is correct if and only if for every valid input the answer is correct, right? But correctness doesn't say anything about invalid input actually. But in terms of computer security, invalid input is the most crucial thing, because this is when all the stuff happens, right? When your program can do like everything. It can make transactions, it can write to the disk, it can touch the databases and everything. And well, when input is invalid, then it may do something that we haven't expected, and it can be abused, right? So you can define like vulnerability, or program may be vulnerable in this way. So for each invalid input, program must reject the input and turn itself in some failed state. It's nice when it returns some message that it failed, and otherwise when program doesn't do this, it may be vulnerable or is vulnerable and may be exploitable. So this is the definition, and now there are some hints what we shouldn't never do. So we should never do scanf with percentage %s like this. This is like disaster, because scanf doesn't know the size of the resource, and resource is always limited. And in this case, basically scanf just continues until there is something to scan, right? So for instance, the sequence of 4 gigabytes of letter A's in the row, right? And then it will overflow the buffer, which is smaller than 4 gigabytes, and then it basically fails the program. It will be segmentation fault probably, or some buffer overflow, and buffer overflow attack can be used to exploit that. You should never use a getS function. I hate even like mentioning of getS function, but I think it's probably better to mention than to forget, and let you sometimes to use it. As you can see in the manual pages, what here is written, never use this function. And it's for the reason here, it behaves basically like percentage %s in scanf. We will put here the resource, right? And this is going until end of line, or until there is like end of the file, basically. So this one we shouldn't ever use. Maybe I should close it. Right, and yeah. So when we are using scanf, we should and %s, we should always put the limit here, like this. And now this is secure. This is okay. We have to be careful that this is number of characters we want to read, and we have to let the room for one more character for proper ending of the string, which scanf do automatically. Yeah, and yeah, if we want fget_s, we can use always fget_s instead, which does this. So fget_s will read as will stop reading on the new line, or when basically our buffer runs out of the size. So it stops also on size, or it stops on end of file. But we will rather use getline, because getline will always allocate inside and read the whole line, right? Instead of get_s, which we may have to like call multiple times to read a whole line. So getline is what we will use today. Yeah, and yeah, let's maybe bring some example when input sanitation is very important, and actually it may harm something, right? Yeah, so basically we should never let proceed the program when we don't know whether input is valid, because everything can happen, right? It can be just a division by 0 on integers. This will be a runtime error, right? And let's imagine, for instance, that you have in some company and there is some authorization server, which is just some service running on which is just telling to another services if this user is allowed to do some operation, right? And then, okay, when this authorization service is written poorly, it may use something like scanf %s before the limit, and some hacker will try to put there like 4 gigabytes of something, and service will be down, right? And since authorization server can be like the single point of failure, then basically in the company nobody can do anything until the service will be up again, right? But it can be even worse when other services are also written poorly. Some programmer could forgot about scenario that authorization server could be down, right? And we could just like ask authorization server about whether user is not unauthorized, and if so, then return like false, otherwise return true, right? And yeah, if programmer haven't like sanitized correctly the timeout of the request, it can return, for instance, true because of timeout, and then everybody can do everything. And this is even worse, right? Everybody can do everything. The database will get out of the integrity, and it will be complete disaster. Like, so everybody can delete everything and do stuff. So this is why input sanitation is so important. Okay, let's continue. Now I will show you how to make it correctly. So first we will focus the scanf function. Scanf function is very complex, and here's this text I once wrote, which is full of examples of scanf function. Only difference here is that we are actually not using a scanf, we are using scanf. And the difference is only that Scanf has this first parameter, which is the source. So actual Scanf reads from the input, right? But Scanf reads from this string, which is the first argument. So I decided to use this function instead, because I can have now input nicely also in the code and making these nice examples. Yeah. So for instance here, we will start, let's start right there. So here we have on the input -1, and here we have format %u, and we're scanning into h variable. H is unsigned, so these data types matches. Here is -1, and one could say like this have to fail, right? Because -1 is not unsigned. But as Scanf, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can see like it gives this as the answer, and actually when you would encode it -1 into signed integer, it is a sequence of ones, right? It's 32 bits, and all these bits are 1. And in unsigned, this 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 and so on is a maximum value there, right? So this is probably because of like between unsigned and signed there is like no conversion at all. It just interprets the bytes in a way as data type set, right? And I don't know, like this could be treated, but it isn't. So this is how it works. Okay, so this was something surprising, but this shouldn't surprise us anymore. We have here integer, we have here conversion into integer, we have here -1, and yeah, so what will happen here? So Scanf conversion will be successful, and Scanf will return number of successful conversions primarily, and when there is like no successful conversion and it reached end of file, it can also return end of file as the EOF constant, which is -1 by the way. Yeah, so in this case we have one successful conversion, and so this condition is not true, this is false, so it will return 1, but h is smaller than 0, so this will be how it ends there. Okay, in this example we will focus on skipping white spaces. So when we have conversions, like it's every conversion instead of some, I will bring here the manual pages. So conversion starts with percentage and then something, right? Yeah, so all these conversions except the character and except this scan set and also negative scan set, these are not skipping white spaces. All other conversions are skipping white spaces. So how we should like see this example is that on the input there is something like a cursor on the beginning, right? There's a cursor on the beginning, and Scanf function moves this cursor according and reading the input according to the format, right? So we have here this file. Let's maybe show the file, and let's maybe expand these sequences. Yeah, so in this file we have we have space, then we have tabulator, then we have new line, then we have 1, which is beginning on the new line, then we have space, tabulator, tabulator, 2 spaces and 2. And there is a conversion %d, and %d is skipping the white spaces. So cursor in the file actually like goes until it's here, and then it sees 1, and it's reading the integer. If it fails, it will stop and return some and it will stop, and result will be like 0 here, but this is okay, so this is successful, and for this %d it will stop right there after this one. Then is another %d, and it does the same story, so it's skipping white spaces, skipping until here's 2, right, and we have 2, and we are happy. And this stops right there on the end, not continuing. So in this case, return value is true because of 2 successful conversions, and A is 1 and B is 2. Now see characters. Yeah, so when we have characters, in this example, then character is not skipping white spaces. So in A will be this space, and it's not A. In character 1 will be this space, and in character 2 will be this tabulator, and pointer or the cursor will end right here. So this will be the result, 2 successful conversions, and so on. If we want to skip these white spaces, we can use 1 white space, and 1 white space means it's skipping white spaces. It will skip all the white spaces basically, and it will just shrink this space. We'll just process this, and then we can read this one. Then we have another space here, so it will skip this, and then it will read 2. So this is how we can do these symbols. Yeah, and third thing is when we have exact matching. And what exact matching does, it's not skipping white spaces, it has to match basically. So when I have A in the format, there right after cursor have to be on the A basically. There have to be A. And when these are same, it continues, right? So then it processing other stuff from the format, and cursor is here. So here is %d, here is 1 white space. Because of %d conversion, we're skipping this white space and grabbing these 1, 2, 3 into variable A, and this is successful conversion for us. Okay, and when we have this, like, oh, I meant to do this. Yeah, when we have this, oh, come on, no, stop, please. Yeah, so when we have this space here, it's not matching the character, right? So this will end here with the fail. Yeah. Okay, but we can use just one space here to skip these white spaces, and then exact matching. When these exact matching, and then there is a white space which will skip this, which will be skipped by this white space, and then there is %d grabbing the H20. Yeah, so yeah, so because of Scanf return value will just give us like the number of successful conversions, right? When we have this exact matching here, and there we have two conversions, and then there is something. There is closing brackets, and in this way, this will be processed successfully. This will match. This will be okay, and then this, there is no white space, so it does nothing here, and this will match these brackets, and there will be cursor on the end, and return value is 2 because of 2 successful conversions. But when we have it wrong, cursor will end here on this symbol, and this couldn't match, but we have no chance to discover it from the result, right? Because it's after last conversion, which means that both conversions happened correctly, but we don't know what happened after, right? So if we want to validate also this and correctly, we have to make another conversion. We can basically make something like this, just new character for the closing brackets, and then we will just make another conversion just to take this bracket, and on the end we just check whether we have 3 successful conversions, and also we are curious whether our closing brackets is really closing brackets, right? Okay, yeah. Then here is the example of how to use buffer. So this is percentage s without limit, and as I said, this is complete disaster, never should be done, and this is how it always should be done. So buffer should be always by 1 size, at least by 1 bigger, so we can proper end the string here. Yeah, so this is good. Yeah, so percentage s here will grab just first token. It's skipping white spaces, it skips, so this will grab hello, and it stops here because percentage s is taking just a token, which is not, it means like there as a separator are white spaces basically. You can also bring here a bit this manual page. As I said, when we have any white space, it will just skipping the white spaces. But what white space is, it will be distinguished according to function is space inside, and here are the white spaces. So this is a classical space with code 20. This is tabulator, a horizontal tabulator. This is new line, a vertical tabulator. This is what I never use this one, but it exists. Feed is this. I never use this. Also it exists. And there is carriage return. Carriage return is still a standard in Windows. So in Windows, instead of just new line character, there is always before new line character carriage return, and then immediately after is new line character. Any other normal system has just new line as a Mac and Linux, but Windows this is just for Windows. Okay, so this is this, and then some conversions you may don't know. These are typical like signed and unsigned integer. This is for integer when we don't know in which, like this can be like in hexa, it can be also in octal notation. When it starts by 0 prefix, it can be an octal notation number or hexadecimal. So percentage I can read these. percentage O is for octal, percentage X for hexadecimal. These are for floating points. Some from these are like a scientific notation and normal notation, and some is like, I think, GS combination, right? I don't care too much. There is a character. Yeah, this is for pointer address. We are not scanning pointer address like never, but we can print it. So yeah, this is for, we don't need this. Yeah, if we want to match a percentage, we can write percentage, and so in this case we can like escape percentage, because percentage is otherwise special symbol for format specifier, right? And yeah, non-white space character, this is exact matching. And yeah, so when we have some successful conversion, then it will return us number of successful conversion. When one failed by like end of file or something, then it will set up the bit end of file, but it will return end of file when it's like used again. Yeah, so end of file when nothing is read, and it can be also because of error. You can have also like input in the like, for instance, in the flash disk file, right? In reading, and during the reading you can like unplug the flash disk and it will fail with error, right? But Scanf will give you end of file here. Okay, so this is about Scanf. Here I have also example. This one, exploitable code, exploitable demo. So we can run this. Let's use my alias. Exploitable. Let's run it. And this is terrible because it's using percentage head basically. And when I put here some bad input, let's do like, yeah, so this is still okay. Now I've put 10 characters, so proper ending will be out of the buffer. We were lucky basically here, because after this buffer in the memory there was 0. Let's try one more. And now we have this stack smashing detection and the program was terminated. Yeah, so there is some detection which can like detect buffer overflow error. Before this detection were applied, it was actually very easy to take a control of your computer just by inputting here some sneak input, because after smashing the stack, there is under it there are just like instructions to the processor, so it could be used like to put there some sneak instructions that may do something what attacker wants basically. So if you're curious how this works, just check for buffer overflow error and you will see details about it. It's interesting. So this should be never done. We should always put here some limit, like here. Yeah. And so let's close this. And we have here, and it here. Here's I've got as example. But we will not use this because we will be curious more about getline function in this drill. So fgts, we just skip fgts. But in terms, if you are curious, this will just read until a new line, or when buffer ends or when file ends. But Getline is nicer because we have here, we just put there that we want line and size, and it does everything inside. It's perfect. So like this, and we will not use this. It's like getters, fgetters basically. Yeah. So let's jump now here, and we will skip Getline Demo, but we will do these tasks. And when we will need the Getline, we will return to the Getline basically. Okay, so first task is easy. We should read name and surname and age, and both should be at most. We have information that both of these buffers should be at most two, like both of these names, not buffers, should be at most like 128 characters long, and age should be non-negative. And this we should sanitize, and as the output we should print capitalized name and surname, then age. So let's do this, and yeah. So we have the information that buffer size, or not buffer size, the input size of the name and surname is limited to 128, right? So let's do some size, like define size 128, and let's do buffers. And buffers we need a bit longer than size, right? Because we need the character to terminate it. So let's do name like size at least 12 plus 1. Surname size plus 1 as well, and some age. We should ensure it's non-negative, so I will use integer, not unsigned here. And we are also not, there is also specified that tasks, that it can lie on multiple lines. So we will just use Scanf. This is typical example for Scanf. And the first conversion will be for name, which will be percentage. Then we put the limit and s, right? Then also percentage, put the limit and s, and here percentage d, and that's it basically. So name surname, comma, and age. Yeah, these are already addresses, so we putting just here, just like this, but this is variable. We have to put address into the Scanf for that, and we expect 3 conversions, 1, 2, 3. So when we don't have 3 conversions, it's invalid input, but also it's invalid input when age is incorrect. Incorrect age here is smaller than 0. We don't like negative age here. So this is our invalid input. Let's return 1. And now we should print out capitalized name, so it means that first character should be converted to uppercase, and all other following characters should be converted to lowercase. And we need this twice, so let's maybe make a function for this. Some like void print capitalized I will not change here the buffer. So I put here a constant. I will just print out the thing. Let's make maybe some funny iteration of the character of the string here. We will use pointer as the iterator here. So let's do character and its pointer, and we will set the pointer to the first character of the string, right? Then we will end when our pointer pointing on ending of the string, and p++ is just to shift the pointer to next character. So this should be okay, but types were incorrect, right? So like this, and then we can do like if C++ extension. So let's use boolean first. So when it's first character, we print that %C, the symbol, and to upper the character. Otherwise, %C, and we will be to over percentage this, and first is not true anymore. Write this, and let's include two upper and two lower are, I think, in C type. So now should be happy. Yeah, it's happy now. Okay, and let's use this function. So print capitalize name, and then we do a space. So print that, just space, print capitalize surname, then we will print the rest of the thing, so name and age. Yeah, so this should be our program. I hope it's correct. I don't need double semicolon, come on. I hope this is correct. So let's try to compile this. G, x, task 1, and let's go. So let's try it. Do 2. Yeah. I think the new line would be down here lovely, but it seems otherwise everything is nice. Yeah. Okay, so I have here 2 more inputs. This is valid input, so let's try this one. Yeah, this is right. We have one invalid input. This one. I just try to make enough long input. It's really enough for the name, I think. Yeah, this is invalid input. Yeah, so here is the token, which is 128 characters. So what? Our program is here. So in first name there was that first 128 characters, and then in surname there was the rest of the first name, and and then for H there was sadly the surname. So this is why it failed, because the name was too long there. Okay, so this was just a simple task, focusing about these limits. There's nothing too much to explain about. So let's do other one. This should be more interesting. So now we should do the program that will take input in this format, like absolute value function, and inside is some number, and inside is some number. That doesn't matter the case sensitivity, so it can be like, oh, yeah. So it can be like, yeah, I tried to write here like regular expression for that. So in the beginning there can be like any number of white spaces, and then it should follow A or capital A, then it should follow immediately B or capital B, then it should follow immediately S or capital S, and then any number of white spaces, and then opening brackets, any number of white spaces, then the number. I was lazy enough to write a regular expression for number as well, but it's a well-known thing, so we don't have to. Then any number of white spaces, and then closing brackets, right? So these are all valid inputs. We don't care about white spaces between and before and inside of vertices and stuff like this. And these should be invalid inputs. Okay, so let's do this one. Yeah, I will use this to start the code, but it will not help much, right? So we don't need this, we don't need this, and we don't need this. Okay. Yeah, so how do we do this? Yeah, so we will use Scanf function, but unfortunately I will just start maybe like this. Unfortunately we can't use this because it can be like capitalized, or it can be also like so here it should be case insensitive, which this can't do basically. So we have to start the things maybe differently. So let's do like, so we will take these symbols, symbol 1, symbol 2, symbol 3 for A, B and C, and we will take the value for the value inside. So to make this correctly, we will first skip number of white spaces, and then we will make these three conversions to characters, which we will read into symbol A, symbol 2, symbol B. Then we will skip number of white spaces. We can use opening brackets to match the opening brackets. Percentage D here. This doesn't matter because it's percentage D. And then to match the closing brackets, right? Can we do this? Like if you are paying attention, you know that this is after the last conversion, right? So if we do this, we don't have control what happened. So we need another symbol here, four closing brackets, right? So now we have 3 and 2 with 5 conversions. And yeah, let me just fill here the symbols. So symbol 1, address of symbol 2, address of symbol 3. This is for ABC, address for H for value, and address for symbol 4. Okay, and this is not enough, we have to check a few more stuff. So be curious if symbol A should be A or like lowercase a or capital A basically. So symbol 1, when symbol 1 isn't cap A and symbol 1 isn't capital A, then it's also like invalid input. This AND has a higher priority than this AND, so this should be like this. This basically, this is the default behavior. So let's check also input B. So ABS, so it should be B now. Symbol 2. Okay, symbol 2, symbol 3 should be lowercase s or capital S, like this, and also symbol 4 should be closing bracket, this one. Yeah, so this is our condition. This, finally we can make an answer. So now let's do it like this, and yeah, here we could use like something like this. Value, if value is smaller than 0, we will put minus value, otherwise value, right? But if you have a framework, then this doesn't work for int minimum value of the integer, int min, and so therefore I would rather do it correct. So we will print out the float and we will use fabs and include some math. And now it should be correct. Yeah. So let's compile the program and let's see if we are successful here. Yeah. So our compiler is kind of angry because, like, I think that people are mixing these priorities. I'm sure that this is right. We can deny this warning if we want by this flag. Okay. Is it like this? No. Yeah, here, like this we can deny that. This error I have probably because my this is probably the flag which causes it. Let me just see. Yeah, so it does all, which enables all warnings of some priority, and yeah. So if we want like yo, but if we want to do like nothing with compiler, we can get rid of the warning just basically by wrapping these into brackets like this, and then the warning is over. Okay, so here the input. Yeah, these are inputs, but it is processing just one input. So I think I have this one here. Yeah. So let me grab this. And we will check our program. So let's try first input. Yeah, so first input is correct. Let's try second one. Give the space. This one is correct. This one is also correct. Now this one. Also correct. Let's try this multiple line one. Wow. Also valid. Let's try this one. Yeah, also works. Okay, let's try now incorrect inputs. If we sanitize properly. This is okay. This is okay. There will be screw vertices. This is probably what most of people would forgot because of that. Like here would put like closing brackets. Here the minus is separated, that's also invalid. And it's not matching string. Yeah, so all these are invalid. And so I think we have done a great job here. Yeah, so let's go to the last task, which will be more interesting. The last task needs also the last one needs also the read line. Getline. And yeah, I just firstly I made like just this. I prepared just this task and trying to make it like in 3 ways. Like firstly just pick x and epsilon whenever it's possible. Then it can be like on multiple lines and we don't care about closing brackets, and then we care about closing brackets, and then we will do the final version, which will just take the symbol, which ensures that it lies on just separated line, basically. In this, I think, but because I did those two previews, I will just straightforwardly go to the final solution. So we will take n, which is the denoted number of these two-dimensional vectors. Then we will have n lines of n vectors in this format, and we should, where is the output? Yeah, output is here. We should convert this x, this coordinates into a vector and into like angle and distance from center 0, 0, from like origin of the coordination system. Yeah, so let's prepare the file we will start, which will be this one, and this will be our code to start with. We don't need any content in main, and the strategy here is that from some point we should grabbing the lines, basically just lines, and then parsing from these lines the rest of the thing. This is how we can ensure it lies on the separated lines, because the scanf function otherwise will skip us the white spaces, and we don't know where can be some basically where can be some line ending, and it would be annoying. So let's do it in this strategy, and before we will just introduce Getline Demo here, which will be our introduction to Getline functions, so we will understand Getline function correctly. Getline Demo. Yeah, good. So our Getline, it works like we can just make pointer to our desired line, and then pointer to the size of the buffer, and this is basically number of characters, how many characters were read from the Getline. And Getline inside has something like realloc. Actually, it has inside a realloc. So in case this is null and this is 0, it will allocate us the resource inside of some size, and here we will have like number of characters were read. So this is basically the same after we put like line into string length function. It will just tell us the same information. Getline ends on the new line. It can also end on the end of the file, because it's not guaranteed that last line ends with end of the file. Like all text editors I know that it does it, but we can create actually some input in other way than from text editor, right? So input can be basically any sequence of bytes. We have to count with it like that. Okay, so yeah, in case it's end of file, so it means it haven't read anything, it will return, instead of number of successfully read characters, it will return this end of the file, which is -1 by the way. Okay, so let's try this, and if I close input right away. It's just end of file. If I put here enter, here is the new line. I put this percentage s into single quotes, so we can see exactly the line here, which is now just the new line symbol. We can write some longer line. As you can see, our getline function allocated buffer to 120, and this is the number of characters we have read. And by the way, we have to release the resource just once on the end in this way, because getline for next call will reuse the same resource, and it can also like resize it inside, right? So this is how getline works, and if we want to use it properly, we have to understand this. Yeah. So this is just how we can have like no memory leak. We can also do stuff like reset here line and size, remove it there. Or if we want to like putting these lines into some array, then we will just like reset these variables to null and 0, and we can put allocated lines into some array and then release it after. Yeah, so another way. Okay, if I put the line without new line like this, then here is the line without new line, and then we reached end of the file. But we reached end of the file after, because I pressed basically 2 times that stuff. You can also like do like echo -a to deny new line on the end. So this will just echo -n. You can put it into our program, and we have here 4 characters read. Here the line, and this is the size. And then next call ended with end of the file in this variable and read. Okay, so when we understand this code, we can actually like a bit rewrite it, because here we have just termination condition from this line loop, from this while loop, and we can actually put here like this into brackets, and then now it's like entering condition to the next iteration of the loop, so we negate the condition here, and from this, because this was the only one escape from the loop, this was always here, and we don't need this anymore. And this is the exactly same code as before. Let's compile. Yeah. Okay, so this is the code we will probably start with. So let's put this into our task tree. But one thing is changed, and it is that I think the task tree, is beginning with number of inputs, right? Yeah, you will firstly get n, denoting the number of vectors, and then n vectors on separated lines. Okay. So let's do also 10. I think we don't like when n is negative, right? Yeah, so we have n now, and now n times, which means 4. And you can start. Let's do like test case or case. Oh, cases. Let's do I. Go for 1. Okay, so now we have n times. So now instead of while, we will do if, and maybe let's do it. Let's do some refactorization here. So we will read the line, then we will check if our read line when it's else, then we break. Because it's like empty input, right? But it is also invalid input because of here we have a number of inputs, a number of lines we want, so this is also invalid input. Let me put it here. Then we can break, and if we break, we don't have to. This is granted, right? So I rather write like break here than return. Otherwise, I would have to do this again. Okay, and also, yeah. So we will have a line, and now we want something to parse the coordination. So we will make another function, and this function has to validate, right? So C++, let's use boolean. So no, parse coordination. Let's pass here const char line, and we want from the output to get x and epsilon. Pointer to epsilon. Yeah. This is what we want. Yeah. So now let's do processing the line. Let's do parsing. And we will use Scanf for this, but now it's from the line, so it's Scanf. So if Scanf, here will be the line, here will be the format, and here the variables we converting in. So let's see the task or some input. Should be like this, and this. I don't know if this should be allowed. Let's see valid inputs. Free. It doesn't matter here. So let's not allow these. Yeah. So percentage. Yeah, I'm just thinking that we should compute then the magnitude and angle, right? So maybe integers is not the best thing here. Let's do double. LF, comma, and percentage LF. And now closing bracket. How we do closing bracket? Of course not like this. We have to make another conversion. So symbol. So this and this seems to be easy. Px is loaded with pointers, so I'm not referencing these. I'm not putting address as well. So I'm just putting here and symbol. Be curious whether we have 3 conversions, and we are curious whether symbol is it should be closing bracket. So if not, then it's invalid input. Wow, how this could happen? Kinda surprised. Yeah, we don't have to free here anything. So we need x and epsilon and this for validation. I think this should be done. So valid input is when we have end of the file, of course, and also an end of the file we want to make a first, because we don't want to access the line when it's end of the file and it's like empty. It can be something, there can be still something, but we don't want to touch it. So firstly we check the end of the file and then we will parse coordinates. So if it was not successful, parse coordination, line, and then it's invalid input as well. And now we should just finish the task. And yeah, but there is still something wrong. And I will let you think if you will discover what is wrong with this code now. And meanwhile, I will just finish the task. So for what I need here, magnitude of the vector. I think we can use here Pythagoras, right? And angle, and angle should be like from the north here. So angle, yeah, for the angle we could use like a couple of arcus tangents and like the fraction x divided by epsilon, right? And getting the angle, but we have something better. We have something better because doing this just by arcus tangents would be kind of annoying. We have to check whether x is negative, whether x is 0, positive, epsilon is negative, and so on. Like all these quadrants are a little bit different, right? But in C language we have 8 and 2, and I really love this function. It's a nice function. We will just put here like epsilon and x, and it will give us all this stuff. Yeah, it will make everything inside, which is lovely. So we instead of putting here just a fraction, we just put x and epsilon, and it's actually epsilon and x. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. 8 and 2. They said epsilon and x. I would put x and then epsilon, because I'm used to, but let's do it like this. And yeah. Okay, then printf. Let's print out some output. So the plan from origin is and also another stuff is that angle here, we will have it in radians, which is good for programming, but if we want to present the information for the human, it's better to use to use degrees, right? So let's convert here the angle. And pi is n underscore pi in C. So now we will bring down magnitude and in degrees. Right. So let's try to compile. Let's try to compile task 3, and let's see what we have. Yeah, we can compile this. By the way, what is wrong with this code? Does somebody notice? Okay, I will show it. Let's try to run it. Let's say 1. Oh, invalid input. It was fast, right? It was fast. The thing is that this scanf, like this, it will stops right after here on the new line character, and when we then use getline, we will just start on the same line and put here the getline. That's kind of a problem, so we have to move the cursor, and one way to do it is that we just make the space here. But this will also like consumes the symbols from other lines. But yeah, let's do it like this. Okay. So now when we put 1, we can actually write something here. Let's do x1 on x coordinates and 0. Angle is 0. Wow, this seems to be wrong. Okay, so yeah, so when it's like this, x and epsilon, it starts from the eastern side. Yeah, so therefore I put 0, right? So if I put 0 and 1 here, should I have 90? Yeah, I have 90. Good. Okay, so let's do it like this. I don't mind it. Yeah. So let's try our input, which is these. Task 3 inputs. So we've got this. So the first one is pointing up, so it's 90. Second one is pointing to the right side. Yeah, let's swap these two. So yeah, firstly. We are firstly in the east, and then north, then let's do west. Yeah, let's do it like this. Okay, good. Yeah. This could be, this is -9, this -90 is basically like 270, 270, like that, pointing down, and here are some these. So this is this one, this is the northwest, right? Yeah, this one, no. This one, yeah, it seems to be, this works. And it works because of 8 and 2. Yeah. So I hope this was useful for you, and I hope you learned something. I hope you learned some importance of input sanitation and how to make it properly. Yeah, so don't forget when we just input like this, you will see next time that yeah, this is like reading by lines, but here is just some number, and we should also like get rid of the, like put the cursor to another line, right? Or we can do like processing everything by lines, and also like taking this from a line. So these are some technique that you will learn. Yeah, also I forgot to show invalid inputs. All should be invalid. Okay, so our program stops on first invalid input, which is not what we want here. So how to do it? Yeah. So we will do this break condition with the same condition as here. So now our program can write like for each line whether it's invalid input or not. But also in case of invalid input, it would be nice to make the continue. Otherwise we would be doing exactly what we are explaining the whole hour, that is bad, and it's like continuing the data that are not valid, right? So this continue will break us to the loop again, and so we will skip here this. Yeah, actually we don't need else here because here is break, so this is only the case. So let's do it like this, and yeah, now we have for this yeah, that, right? All these are invalid. Yeah, so this is all. I hope you took something from that, and see you next time. See you.